I am Joshua K. Sabra, Esquire, and he is Dr. Miles Salisbury. And you are listening to the Miles Ahead podcast, where we share tactics, techniques, and protocol to improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health while you walk the path of the warrior. Stay tuned. In today's episode, Dr. Miles and I discuss goals. We discuss what the biggest pitfalls are when people set goals, what holds them back from even wanting to set goals, and why it's not fun. And most importantly, what the most important keys to success around goal setting are, and how to make your process of setting and achieving your goals a lot of fun and something you want to do over and over again. Stay tuned. And we're live.
Back in black for me.
Right?
Go Eagles.
Go Eagles. Yeah, you're is that it? That's an Eagles player on your shirt there?
Yeah, Mr. Saquon Barkley.
Oh,
Stolen from the Giants.
wow, that's a huge regret for them.
Yep. It's hilarious. Sorry, Giants fans.
Sorry, not sorry.
Exactly.
Well, I'm wearing a hand-me-down, actually, it's kind of the wrong way to say it. I'm wearing a very important sweater, gifted to me by my girlfriend, and I'm channeling my inner masculinity here, on a very freezing December day. And I've been listening to, I don't know about you, but I've been listening to a lot of like classic rock. What is classic rock for me now? Because 90s are classic, right? That was long enough. Does that count? No, it doesn't.
That's crazy. Well, it probably does. It's crazy. You're getting old when like your high school bands start showing up and like playing at the casino near you. Like,
Yep.
God damn it.
Well, Motley Crue. I mean, I didn't see them in concert, but I don't know if Tommy Lee is still with them, but Kickstart My Heart. There's a lot of really good, fun, fast paced rock songs that Motley Crue has done. So if you haven't dug into the repertoire of Motley Crue, you should check them out. What do you listen to, Miles?
That electronic EDM group, Uncle, UNKLE. They're from like, I know this album's from like 2010. It's actually a bunch of remixes, but they're pretty cool.
Cool. What country they're from?
What'd you say?
What country are they from?
I don't know. No idea.
Okay. All right. Uncle.
Look into it.
All right.
Probably the UK, I would imagine. Everything good. All good music comes from the UK, it seems.
God, you're so bleak. So bleak. I like Oasis.
It's a good one.
Yeah, man. And there are others. Yeah, there's some, The Who.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's classic rock.
That's classic rock, yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we can, we should get some AI generated knockoff Who music. Or maybe get like 9 seconds of, everything the Who's made is great for intro music. Like if you listen to, Baba, I'm blanking on the names now. All right, I'm not a Who historian. Let's move on. We'll come back to the
I'll be there either.
The Who part. Well, okay. So the Who, let's talk about the what. Because this is one of my favorite topics, goal setting. And after many, many years of setting goals and getting a lot of anxiety and not a lot of goals accomplished, I started to set them differently. But I started to notice some patterns that I want to talk about today. But I'll give you some examples of like me setting a goal and then the chaos and the madness that ensues. But before we get into my goal setting stories, what's your experience with goal setting, Miles?
Hit and miss. It's not very. I need to have more structure to it. It's more loosely outlined. I get more into the psychological parts of it and hung up on those rather than just the let's make it more meat on the bone sort of thing and actually stick to it. Um, I get things done, but it kind of takes me a long time sometimes because there's no wake up and follow some sort of plan with tactics that lead to a strategy. So I need help here just as much as anybody. But I have a lot of ideas about what gets in the way for me, and I'll talk about those later in the episode. But so it's not the greatest. What about you?
Um, I love setting goals. Um, I get anxiety from them. Um, it like I started with like Tony Robbins book, I think talked about visualization and
Mm.
like getting into your reticular activating center and or system and getting the mind's eye focused on bringing into your world what you want to see more of, which is I'm essentializing what the reticular activating center does. But as a a simple reference point, I think everybody has the experience of when you let's say you buy yourself a new Volkswagen that's red. Everywhere you go, everywhere you drive on the road, you see the car you're driving. You see your red Volkswagen all over the place because your brain's been primed to know that that is an important item, an important thing. And so you start to see it everywhere. So by shifting your focus onto the thing that you want, you are, basically priming the mental real estate in your mind to make more space for that and to create pathways to get there.
Yeah, what is he also Tony Robbins also says where focus goes, energy flows, or something like that. I'm sure this is part of it.
Absolutely. Um, so I started with that and started writing down like little things like, a pair of sneakers and, you know, uh, you know, improving my bench press. And then it went into like getting more clients and improving my financial health and my romantic life and, things like that. And, it's just sort of baby stepped its way forward.
Mhm.
And, the, there's a couple of like, well, first I want to talk about what didn't work for me. And like, when it comes to setting goals, people would always say like set big, hairy, scary goals,
The BHAGs.
right? The BHAGs. And I would do that. And what I would find is that like if I set a goal to like get 30 clients and I have 10 clients or something, like triple my business or whatever. Well, that would just put a lot of pressure on me. And about 10% of that pressure is good. The other 90% would just stress me out. And I became quite restless, in a lot of areas of my life to try and move forward. And I found that I was more frantic than focused. So setting the BHAGs, I think as a North Star, that's a great thing to do, to be really focused on building the life that you want. But I think what I learned is that the picking the goal, picking the North Star based on if you were sticking with the map analogy, right? So the North Star is like the direction, and then the map of the Earth dictates what terrain you're going to have to cross to travel that direction, right? Well, if I picked out the terrain I liked first and then selected the direction that was, maybe not directly north, but northwest, and we already talked about in a previous podcast the way I did that with for fitness, right? So selecting a goal, I want to build muscle, but I don't really like bodybuilding style workouts. I like strongman and strength training over here. So I want to focus more on those. And so yes, in pursuit of those, I would build muscle. So the North Star was still get stronger, build muscle, but it was just a different path. And I selected the goals along the path that led me to the North Star. And then it was more fun, right? Because I didn't really like measuring all my food. I didn't really like doing all the little details that are required to be on a bodybuilding program. But in terms of the strong, I like picking up Atlas stones and doing yoke carries and squats and deadlifts. And that really made me feel good. So I was more excited to be on that journey. So the theme, right, is picking the process that you're going to enjoy that also takes you in the direction that you want to be in. And in some ways, we kind of do that with our work, right? Like, you know, I'm a personal trainer, holistic lifestyle coach, shaman, whatever I am. It's like you could be a personal trainer and you could work in a PT clinic and be a PTA, physical therapy assistant. You could, be a chiropractic assistant. You can be a movement educator. You can do all kinds of things in the field, right? If you enjoy the clinical environment more. I like to be dirty. I like to be in the gym. I like to be working with, groups of people one on one. I like teaching. I like teaching my own curriculum. So that requires a different path. So hopefully, like just through the process of traveling, right, we start to refine what path we want to be on more. And that makes it easier to set goals. But I think that's one of the side effects, secondary benefits of goal setting is that we get to learn more, and do more, and grow. And the first example I have is of goal setting and setting that 30 client goal, right? So I had no way of knowing like how to get 10, 20 more clients. I know, referrals are important, networking is important. I had no sales skills, no real idea how that was going to work. When I set that goal though, I ended up growing my business. And as I grew my business, the gym that I was training in went out of business. And so before the end of that year, I think like 6 months into that year, I ended up becoming a gym owner. And my problem set now had to do more with, what offerings is, I didn't need 10 or 20 more clients. I needed 100 more clients to justify this gym. And so my problem set got way bigger, but also my learning curve got way steeper and faster. So I taking more action, more responsibility, and more fun. I mean, the whole thing was fun and scary, but fun. And so in setting the goal and being on the path, it kicked open this, door to this whole new world or this whole new world opened up to me, not necessarily because I set the goal. But what I found was that whether or not I got the 30 clients, I had so much fun traveling in that direction. That's the right, like that I knew I was in the right arena, that I was having a good time, that my skill set was growing. I was completely overwhelmed at first, but I grew into it over time. And that was my path and my process. So I ended up, setting a whole different set of goals after that, but I got a lot from just pursuing it. So number one, like setting a goal and traveling forward helps you define what path you should be on. The side effects are that you learn more about what parts of the path do you like and how to grow yourself better. I learned how to grow myself better. And then that allowed me to pick more specific processes that I liked. So being on the exact leg of the journey that I want to be on moving forward. And and it's fun just to pursue the goal. I mean, if you're selecting the right goal, it's fun just to be in the pursuit of it. If it's not fun and it's just scary, or if there's only downside to being on the path, might not be in the right arena, or maybe the goal is too far ahead. The goal should be more like if you want to be an author, right? The goal of writing a book, that's a big goal. But writing 4 long form, like 2,000 word blogs will force you to do a deep dive on one thing, one chapter of your book. And if you can write that in a month, that's basically you writing 500 to 1,000 words every workday for 25, 26 days. That'll reveal whether or not you like being on that journey. And you don't have
Mhm.
to put the pressure of, you know, writing an entire book.
Mhm. Yeah, so go for the low-hanging fruit. Chunk it down.
Yeah. When you say low hanging, I feel like oftentimes what is implied in that is lower value, but sometimes the low hanging fruit is the only fruit that you need, right? Like, um, to give you an example of like that low hanging fruit, but how it really applies is like when people reach out to me and they're like, I want to lose 25 pounds. I need a workout program. I need this and that. And I ask for a 3-day diet audit of what they're eating. And I say, good news when I get it back. You don't need a workout program. Actually, the low hanging fruit is just add these three things into your diet and then measure again in 21 days. And then sure enough, they're cutting weight, right? Just from rearranging their diet.
Mhm.
Sometimes that low hanging fruit is all of the fruit that you need to get to where you want to go.
That's
And
interesting.
there doesn't need to be other steps, right? This is goes back to the special forces mantra. They there's lots of soft mantras that are floating around. But my favorite one is um, we are masters of the basics, is what my buddy would say, who's a Green Beret. He's like, we never don't do the basics. And that means that like when they clear a room, they do it from the field manual so they don't miss anything, right? And they may add to the field manual, but they don't take anything away. Their concept of operation has all elements of the operation outlined in it. So that means they're not making anything up. And oh, by the way, there's source material for the operation, meaning there's an NXP, there's an intelligence part. They have a reason they're doing it, right? So they're not skipping anything. So everything is clear, right? Yeah, they have great clarity.
Mhm.
So the low-hanging fruit are the fundamentals, and you may not need anything after that. So to the point of grab the low-hanging fruit, and yes, and sometimes that's all there is. Like writing a book. The practice of writing every day is basically the fundamental craft of good writing and then editing, right? But if you could do that, you can write, what? How many books has Jocko written? 15?
At thereabouts, yeah. Tim Ferriss will write 3 pages a day, no matter what. It could be more than that, but it's a minimum of three. And if you do three every day for a year, you probably have enough meat for a book and you can start editing.
Absolutely. That's right. So, um, the chasing the goal is more important than getting the goal. The I made I made so many mistakes in goal. We can get into mistakes in goal setting, whenever you want. But I think the biggest mistake of goal setting is they're too high stakes. Like I won't be okay if I don't get this goal. And it's okay if something is really high stakes and you care about it a lot. That's a good category of goal. But dialing it down to where it's not life or death.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Um, when I was a gym owner, like my goal was always hit this number or the gym closes. Right? Like if I don't make my quota, then we have to shutter our doors, right? Because we were
That's
at
where you're at.
yeah, that's where we're at. And like I said, the I became a gym owner accidentally when the gym went out of business. So it wasn't like I had a lot of planning into that. But to do over again, I wouldn't put myself in such a high stakes situation.
Hmm. That makes sense.
So that's my fundamental piece on goals is number one, choose the process you're going to enjoy. The chasing is more fun. Make it low stakes, make it easy to succeed. So if you're writing a goal, this is my rule. If Tony Robbins would argue differently, and that's totally fine, that's a different way to do it. But my rule is if you're writing out the goal and you don't have a clear process that will create that goal for you, or like If you're trying to, market yourself and you don't, okay, write 3 emails a week, write, a social media post every other day, talk to 3 people about your business every day. If you don't have these like input pieces that are going to be clear about what the output is, then that goal is a hope, right? It's not really a goal. Now, you can have dreams, right? And you can have things on your vision board that you don't know how to get, a $5 million house. You don't know how you're going to get that. Cool. That's a vision board. Like a goal is this is this is impacting what I'm working towards. It's impacting the process and it's also impacting my motivation. So I don't particularly like to have goals I can't possibly hit or even know how to, manage that. So it demotivates me if I don't have an input process to it.
Mhm. And inputs would be sort of the tactics you're doing.
Yeah. So like exactly. What is going to create the outcome? So you don't have to have created it to know what you're gonna what like you don't have to have done it before to it just has to be a map drawn by somebody who has been there before.
Mm.
So I like when I first got into strength training, I didn't know how to add 100 pounds to my bench, but I just read books and the people were saying like do these things. And so I had, months of programming in front of me and I just followed the map. So, and as I hit some benchmarks and was able to move forward, it's like it became clear that, oh, this is working. These are the proper inputs for progress. So by, borrowing the map from the people ahead of you is really important. But other than that, yeah, it's just about, for me, goals are fun, low stakes, and should be exciting, right? I should be able to look at my whiteboard and go, hell yeah, that's what I'm doing today.
Yeah, that's really helpful. You want to wake up and be motivated, pumped, excited, and not depressed and overwhelmed.
Yeah, um, it's more important to use a financial analogy for the goal setting thing. Let's take it back to this crisis point, right? Where like I'm taking over a business that isn't doing well. It's more important, honestly, to bail the water out and to get in a different boat that is easier to manage. Now, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have probably done it that way because the pressure reduced my performance, right? The being in crisis management mode, it's too much. And I think people sort of instinctively know that. That's why they don't take on, big projects. But I think that there's a difference between pressure and urgency. Pressure is consequences levied upon you from the outside. Urgency is consequences levied upon you from the inside. So I should feel liberated the more actions I take. I should feel empowered the more I move forward. And it is okay if there's a little bit of like you and I have a, if I'm going to hold you accountable, you're going to hold me accountable. I'm going to write you a check to the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh,
And
that move, yeah.
yeah, and so it's like, do I want to be a political contributor to the KKK? No, I don't. Now, you know, I call that throwing my hat over the fence. Like there's a consequence now for me not to do it, right?
Mm.
And the consequence is yes, financial, but it's also moral and emotional. Like that's incongruent. My integrity is now in jeopardy, right?
Mhm.
That's a dramatic example, but uh, I also think that having a sense of throwing your hat over the fence, the that term comes from cowboys, right? You have a number one, you never touch a cowboy's hat, but number two, once your hat's on the other side of the fence, you have to get over the fence now, right? Because you can't go home without your hat.
You can't leave their hat. Yeah.
So having that sense of there's no way there's no way out but forward. That's the mentality, right? And whatever it takes to create that for you.
Cool. Well, I guess I could talk about the psychological stuff that can get in the way, and help. Uh, when I was jotting stuff down, I think the first thing is awareness is where you start. Like you have to have awareness of uh, lots of things. Like what's working, what's not working, where do you want to go, where do you not want to go? If you don't get clear on certain things, it'll be hard to even start a goal. So where it starts with awareness, and then narratives are huge. Like sometimes I don't even like the word goals. I was telling you before, I sometimes listen to that word and think it's like a imposition on me or something. Like a lot of people push back on Jocko's discipline equals freedom, but it does, but they don't like the word discipline because there's a lot of stuff attached to it. But if you distill it down, it just means to sort of be a disciple of, and if you are disciple to um, your words, your values, or whatever you're trying to do, that gives you freedom. And if you don't, you get the opposite. So if you don't like the word goals, you can change it to vision, like you were saying before, intention. My intention is to do X, Y, and Z. So if that works for you, freaking change it. It doesn't have to be a goal or a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. If that's too jargony or has a lot of emotional baggage to it, then scratch it, change it, make it work for you. And then for sometimes people have a goal, but they're really trying to get the emotional state that the goal gets them. So getting clear on that can be helpful. What are you trying to solve for with your goals or vision emotionally? Like, oh, I want a new car. Well, why? Oh, because I'll feel cooler or whatever. That's okay. I guess if it makes you feel cooler, within reason. Um, and oftentimes when you're doing a goal, and there's resistance, we often think, well, I've got to get the internal change fixed before I take steps. And studies have shown that actually, if you just start doing the behaviors, the internal state will kind of follow suit because your brain sees what you're doing and starts to buy in and go, oh, I must be the kind of person that goes to the gym rather than like, I've got to solve all this emotional stuff and the reasons why I can't go to the gym. Like you can start working that, but sometimes just the act of just going into the gym, even if you just turn around and leave, and then the next day you come back and lift one weight, turn around and leave, your brain starts noticing that you go to the gym and you start believing, oh, I must be somebody that goes to the gym. And then that internal state starts to shift, that resistance starts to go away. So that's another interesting factoid. Uh, what are the daily habits or tactics needed to deploy so one doesn't have to micromanage the goal? You just kind of talked about that. You don't want to micromanage the goal too much. That'll bog you down, waste time. Get habits or tactics that work that are easy to deploy in the day that you don't have a lot of what Huberman calls limbic friction, emotional friction towards. Um, you know, uh, what is it? I can't remember his name. The Tiny Habits author. Is it BJ Fogg? I can't remember his name. A guy from Stanford. He was talking about when people resist flossing their teeth. He's like, well, just floss one tooth a night and then do that for a week. And next week, add another tooth. And then before you know it, you're not fighting flossing your teeth. It's just habitual. We all did this as kids. We always fought brushing our teeth, and now we just do it without thinking about it every day. So make it easy. And I like to think goal setting also is like navigating a battleship and not a speedboat. Just you're constantly having to navigate left and right to get to your North Stars you're talking about. If you think about a speedboat, it's too overwhelming too quick. You might go off course really easily. So make it a long game. You're on a battleship. You're not on a big body of water. You're not on a lake or river necessarily. This is another one I thought was interesting. I came across this that's floating around right now on the internet called the Batman effect. Have you heard of that before?
No.
It's where you assume an alter ego and behave as if you're that archetype or the one who's living out the vision or goal or the person you want to be. So again, narratives matter. So if you want to be you want to increase confidence, imagine yourself as like Tony Robbins or something and start to pair the emotional state with that too, because your brain really notices when you have the emotional state that comes with it. You can't just say I am XYZ type of person, you have to feel the emotions that are connected to it. Then your brain pays attention. But it's sort of like acting as if for a while. Calling it the Batman effect, I thought that was pretty hilarious because all guys we think, well, we're Batman, so that makes sense to me. Uh, then B. Peterson quote, if you're getting stuck and you feel like you're not making progress because you're looking at where you're quote unquote supposed to be, um, look at who you used to be, look at the progress gained, and that should give you a little more joy and hope. Like, oh, I have made some progress, rather than always like, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Like that can get you depressed. So switch your perspective there. And you mentioned vision boards. They can actually help. They're cheesy, but they can help. It's the reticular activating system at work, right? Like just to remind you, if you want to put pictures on a board of something, go for it. But you can also put your written out goals out to where you see them in your peripheral when you're walking by, so you remember them. Those are important. So it always stays in your awareness. And then a good one, have a plan for dealing with setbacks, because there will be setbacks. There will be roadblocks, bumps, challenges along the way. A lot of people hit those and they do the black and white all or nothing give up thing. And that's what we're not trying to do. So um, you were talking about Army Spec Ops before, and they have a acronym called PACE, Primary, Alternate, Contingency, Emergency. You can use that. Primary is the goal. Alternate's the second one. Contingency is the third option. Emergency is like, get off the fucking X. This isn't working. Change. So you can use PACE as an acronym if that's helpful. And back to narratives and imagery, like you can say, don't worry, it's a long game. I'm playing a different game than others. You don't have to compare yourself. And the cliche quotes like it's a marathon, not a sprint, are cliches for a reason, because it rings true. Sometimes these are an endurance event, or you can look at it as like a crucible or hero's journey. Sometimes like when I use that makes me feel better about it. Oh, this is the hero's journey. Like this is archetypal, what I'm trying to do here. And it gives you a little more encouragement. And then know yourself. Do you need an accountability partner? Are you that kind of person? Or can you hold yourself accountable? It's hard sometimes. Um, and you want to be careful with like the free dopamine effect. A lot of people will go around like, oh, I got picked up to be a Navy SEAL. I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL, and you tell all your friends I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL, and you get this like high of like I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL, and then you blow that dopamine, then you go to buds and like wash out because there goes the motivation. So there's different research on, yes, you should tell people about your goal, or don't tell anybody about your goal. So, which person are you? The one that gets the free dopamine and will crash out? Or does that help you to actually tell someone, and specifically maybe an accountability partner that you trust, that'll keep you going? Let's see.
Let's
And then
pause here. Let's pause on that.
okay.
Um, so one of the things like we can sum up like a bunch of these in one example, right? So okay, Miles has a goal to bench 500 pounds because he wants to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The Arnold.
So Arnold, after he was Mr. or during his when he was Mr. Olympia, he also set a bench press goal to bench press 500 pounds. I think it was so he could kind of hang out with Franco Columbu and be a power lifter. And it was really hard because bench pressing 500 pounds is hard, even if you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. All right, so Miles wants to do that. Well, the real look, we're going to compass all the things that Miles had mentioned here in this example. Is the real reason that Miles wants to do that is because Miles wants to live out his pure potential with his physicality. That's the real goal, right? Do we agree on that? To see like what's the maximum amount of strength and force production I could get in my shoulders. That's that's the actual goal. That's the North Star. So the path is the 500-pound bench. Now that's if you're imagining a horizon, that's the mountaintop right underneath the North Star, right? Like we're aiming for that. We're going to see if we can hit it. And then if we have a growth mindset about it, we have a spectrum. That's at the far end of the spectrum of performance. And there's many steps along the way. So if he's playing the infinite game, he's the battleship. It's not going to shift very much, but we move up the spectrum And he goes from being able to do a push up to benching 100 pounds, benching 200 pounds, benching 250, benching 300. And he tears a pec and a rotator cuff because he goes too deep and bounces off his chest and damages his rotator cuff.
There's the setback.
A setback. But now he's got he's not giving up on maximizing his full potential, but maximizing his complete potential for his health now implies that he has to restore complete function to the shoulder. So he has a bunch of implied tasks now. He has a torn pec, he's got damage to the shoulder girdle. So now he has to learn new skills and develop new resiliency, right? And he also has to have a little bit of a pain tolerance because that rehab comes with some pain. So he's going to grow a little bit more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And there's going to be resistance the entire way because it's going to feel like he's doing it wrong because he's going to be in pain even while he's doing the correct rehab. And then he's going to go back to earning a push up again. Now, on the map, right, in our ego, that might be 6 steps back, but that's forward of skill building, right? He's built more skills. He's inoculated himself to pain and resistance. He's increased his resilience. He's learned how to rehab a damaged shoulder girdle. And he's learning how to do things while he's uncomfortable. So his internal state, right, is he's learning how to behave differently than he feels, which is a separate skill, right? You talked about discipline in the beginning, right? Well, what are you going to be a disciple of? Now you're a disciple of health, right? You're more devoted to functioning and feeling good physically and feeling capable and independent than you are about feeling comfortable and um, you know, happy and numb, right? Because I say happy and numb because just because your shoulder doesn't hurt when you don't do the rehab, you don't do your rehab long enough, your shoulder will just always hurt.
Yep.
Right. So your pain will just increase the more you avoid the work. Right. And if you're listening to this and you're getting the metaphor of life, that's why we're saying it out loud. Whatever you're avoiding will start to choke you out to death. Your life will become about avoiding pain if you don't learn how to manage and act as if and just act your way into it.
That's a
So
big statement. Yeah. I think that's for a lot of people for all across the board in so many ways.
so you're playing the infinite game. You have a growth mindset. A growth mindset just means to think on a spectrum. You're marching towards the inevitable goal. The value is maximizing your potential as a human and your health. But the North Star is performance, and then the benchmarks on the path, 500-pound bench, fully functional, big triceps, all those things. Those are just big. Those are just flags along that route that we're climbing up, right?
The feedback.
And the whole time, the resistance. This hurts. I don't want to do it. It's uncomfortable. It's not even possible. I'm never going to do this. All that resistance is the reason why you have to keep doing it,
Mm.
right? Just reminding you the reason why you have to keep moving forward.
Obstacles away.
That's it. So it's built into every path, right? It's we think when we're in our ego or in our fear or whatever, playing small, that becomes the narrative, the obstacle, right? Oh, I can't because my shoulder hurts. Oh, other people aren't dealing with this injury. Oh, other people don't have to get up at 5 a.m. and do their bench press before their kids wake up to go to school. Like, nah, like this is just the path. It's shitty. I mean, it's fucking shitty for everyone. Pardon my French. But all of that is encompassed, all those things that you said, right? And the only thing I didn't include was like a vision board, but you might have one of those. And then, you might need it written down, which is why Rocky in the movie, he has Ivan Drago on his dashboard,
That, yeah.
right? He's visualizing the goal the whole time. He's going anywhere, he's doing anything, is there's only one thing on his mind, and that's to win.
Yeah, little a talisman to help you.
That's right. So, but the all these things, right? The list making and the accountability, it's kind of vulnerable and no, it's not. it is vulnerable to share your goals with someone that you trust because they know that you've set out to do something
Yep.
and they will be the only ones that know that you quit. So the I didn't say scary because it certainly is scary to be judged or to be, fail in front of other people, but it's always vulnerable, even if you're not afraid of the judgment or you're not afraid of that, what these other people will think about you, which is a whole nother podcast.
Hmm.
Um, but it is always vulnerable. And here's here's the secret. No goal that you will ever write down in your journal, in your mind's eye, that you ever want to accomplish will be accomplished by yourself. If it's
Hmm.
worth anything, it will not be, you will not do it alone. So you actually have to include other people if you want to get there. And
Yeah.
prove me wrong. Prove
You
me
can't,
wrong, audience.
yeah, can't lone wolf it. Lone wolf it. That reminds me of the hero's journey. Like he's on the journey or she's on the journey, but they meet things and people and stuff along the way that helps them. It's not like it's a point A to B.
That's exactly right. And the whole point of this podcast was to just remind you that it isn't the fucking goal that helps you, it's the journey that helps you. Because in the journey, you have to address all that resistance.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to swim, you never cross the river.
Right. Yeah. And then one last thing that can help too is like start building your next goal while you're completing the current one because sometimes like athletes will have a goal of winning a gold medal and then they'll win it and then like for 2 minutes they're happy and then they're really depressed. Like, oh, now what? Like this is just a big letdown. So one and like really enjoy that win, like celebrate it, don't just look it over. But also like, okay, and then the next thing I'm doing is this. And you can have those in the beginnings. Like Ryan Holiday will finish a book and immediately start his next one, or he has already started the next one. So it's not just this letdown. It's just the process. You keep doing the process, refine the process, and then it gets um, better and better. And then harder and harder at the same time, but you grow for that. So that can be helpful.
Yeah. And I think like the people who suffer the most, they don't have a mission, but they do have a goal.
Mm.
Because if you don't have a mission and you get to the Super Bowl and you win it, then it's terrifying to the next Monday morning, right?
Now what? Yeah, who am
Because you only have so many interviews and your speaking tour only goes so long after that Super Bowl win. And then it's like, what are you doing now? And
Yep.
you need to be about something.
Yeah.
And the people, that's what Jocko says, you got to find the next mission.
Next mission. Yeah.
So embedded in my goals are the person that I want to be, and the
Mm.
vehicle might be money. The vehicle might be
Yeah. Yeah.
fitness. The vehicle might be personal relationships and things like
Yeah.
that. Um,
The person I want to be in the emotional state that I want to cultivate.
yeah,
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So you got to pair the psychological with the tactical and the nuts and bolts part. I think people think goals and they think it's like just the tactics and just do all these things, then it just happens. And maybe that's right for some people because like I said, the interstate can follow suit with the behavior change, but that's really hard. If you don't have the why and who you want to be and all the stuff you just said, it's your first setback will just be a dead end and you'll quit. And we see that as we're coming up on New Year's when all these things start happening for some reason.
yeah. And I also want to add too before we end that it doesn't need to feel good, and I mean that I have a lot of entrepreneur friends, and the growth process, being addicted to personal growth, it seems to be an entrepreneur thing. It's an athlete. I mean, athletes should be addicted to growth too in some ways, but high achievement doesn't necessarily need to feel, it doesn't need to be, mo- I'm thinking of a person who's a very high performer in the restaurant bar business, and he has a lot of anxiety when he has downtime. And
Mm.
he's also been able to turn things around in multiple projects and he's addicted to solving problems, right? So he's addicted to stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you kind of have to be really successful in some industries. And I'm not saying that success and stress go together. I don't want to make that link, but growing and doing something you've never done before, it
Friction.
it doesn't need to feel good.
It probably won't feel amazing all the time, and it's going to hurt a a lot of the time at first. Yeah.
Um, my as I, I mentioned bench press like 55 times in this podcast, but I have a goal of uh what did I say? Benching twice my body weight, um, squatting 3 times my body weight, deadlifting four times my body weight. And I those are ridiculous goals or whatever. I set them just because my North Star is optimizing performance. And it's also painful. And it's painful to grow. My shoulder, as I've been rehabbing it, it's relearning how to do things. It hurts,
Mhm.
but the function improves. Now I can do more things. I can put my clothes on easier. I can do different movements a little bit more easily. And it's like I'm fighting for every inch. But the if I'm not fighting to make forward progress, then I'm in pain moving backwards.
Mhm.
And uh, I feel like the Buddhist thing is probably the most relevant here. To be human is to suffer. So are you going to suffer from moving forward, or are you going to suffer from moving backward? But you will suffer.
Which pain do you choose?
That's right. Which pain do you choose? Bam, I'm fired up, Anna. Now I want to go freaking set some goals.
Yeah, let's do it. You all out there listening as well. And if you want to share this with someone that needs help with goal setting, share the podcast or the YouTube video. And then what are we talking about next week? Do we have an idea? We did, didn't we?
Well, we talked about um the key to all of this, right? You can't be vulnerable and you can't fail and you can't be uncomfortable if you don't trust yourself and if you don't trust that you will the pressure and the irritation that you give yourself if you don't trust yourself to make a pearl out of it,
Mm,
then you will not and you will not enter in good faith into these commitments, right?
no
So
pressure, no diamonds.
I think our next week conversation is going to be about doing the internal parts work and learning how to feel your way through these things so that when you're confronted with the shitty feeling of moving backwards in your workout program, which can definitely happen, or getting injured or getting disappointed or whatever it is, what to do with that. I think we should have a conversation about feeling our way through things.
About making pearls.
Yeah. So we'll talk about parts work next week and what do you call it? IFS?
That's one of the theories. Internal family systems, also Gestalt therapy, and then a lot of stuff from Jungian therapy is there's a lot of crossover. There's so much out there, but parts work is just a good, nice colloquial way to talk about parts of you that have ideas about things and motivations and behaviors associated with them. So yeah, making pearls.
Making pearls, baby.
Okay, that sounds good. Closing, feel complete. Closing thoughts.
Um, Set goals, be uncomfortable, but the chasing is the fun part. So, if you're focused on the scoreboard and not the game, you're missing it.
There you go. Good analogy. All right. Until next week, we're out.
Boom, shakalaka.